Hello there, this is the Misanthropic Lord, and welcome to The Flame in the Flood, a roguelike exploration post-apocalyptic game in which you take a young, probably around teenage girl, I believe who is a scout, and take her to higher ground so that she can get her radio to work and hopefully get rescued. As I said, this is roguelike and exploration, so you take your raft down the river, going to different places, getting supplies, killing some wolves and some boars and some other nasty little critters out there in the wilds, and hopefully survive. You also have a little doggy right there. See the little doggy with the skeleton? Yeah, that person's dead. He's gonna take the backpack for me, though. Like a good little doggy should. So this was an early access game, and it just came out. There were a couple of people that played it already on YouTube and the such. I, for one, really like the art in this game. It reminds me of Coraline, if you've ever seen that movie, especially her character. Ugh. This is who I'm talking about. The character herself looks like a mix between Coraline or any other stop-motion character from Tim Burton and Morgan Le Fay, which I'll go ahead and put her picture up so you can see the comparison between the two. But she was the villain in King Arthurian legend. This game has great themes behind it. It's sort of a coming-of-age story for this teenage girl who I'm assuming is a scout because she starts at a scout village, trying to survive something that's obviously apocalyptic. Something terrible has happened to the countryside, and she's trying to figure out how to survive and how to get help. How to eventually get saved. The game starts out with you by a campfire with a radio that the dog has just brought us and trying to get to higher ground to get a signal for that radio, and the game just kind of goes on from there. Right now it's about collecting stuff to create different items that will help you survive later on in the game. A couple of little basic instructions right there. Essentially, you have to make sure she's not starving, thirsty, cold, or tired, which is good because death is bad. That sapling is going to help me create some snares, some box traps, and maybe even a spike trap. Well, Camp Pinewood's a fine home for a spell, but it's time to move on and see where that dog came from. Maybe there's someone else out there. That's my pioneer. But you use traps to get fur and meat, and you use the fur to make warmer clothes. She's going to need some more hardy clothes if she's going to make it through colder climes. So this creature represents one of the more aggressive and dick-baggier creatures that you're going to see in this game. Or I suppose if it was a female wolf that you were encountering, it would be a labia-lipped bag of wolves. But they're very aggressive, and they will kill you. They will hurt you. They will kill you, and they will most likely eat you. This is just showing some of the basics that you have when it comes to finding water for yourself and making sure that you're able to get the water that you need. For the game itself, you can actually fill up jars of water and then filtrate them out using rags, charcoal, and I believe a cattail. But you can also get pure water from sources from like a faucet. You also have a quick use menu, as this nice little sign right here says. It's on the left-hand side of the screen under 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see, it has a couple of things like filling a jar, jerky, night crawlers, just stuff that you can use on the fly. You can also use it to arm traps, and you can also use it to arm weapons, such as throwing a jar filled with sumac fumes at things. And it's a way to kind of do that on the fly as well, but it's done very clunkily. It's not done very well. This is another aspect that's kind of a little too meta for me. You get quests from this post office box, and as you do the quests, they actually will give you rewards afterwards, which seems a little bit breaking the fourth wall, since who's going to put stuff in there while you complete the quests? It's a little out of place. The exploration itself, though, and the emptiness of this post-apocalyptic setting that you see is, bar none, one of the best, more colorful post-apocalyptic scenarios I've ever seen. And you don't know why. You don't know why this is happening. No explanation is given. You're just trying to find your way on a raft, on a river, to survive. Use the different items that you have and see if you can't make the distance. This is campaign, so there is an eventual end to this mode. But there's also an endless mode, and if you go back to the main menu, you'll actually see it, where I guess you just try to last for as long as you possibly can. Now, one of the obvious allusions that I can see to this is the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, where he's just rafting down the Mississippi River and having adventures along the way. The particular setting of having it be dystopic makes it a little bit more dangerous, though, and more exciting, if I'll say so myself. Especially since you start off with basically this hunk of junk, this thing filled with the barrels of air and the planks, which is barely holding together. You can tell that it wasn't crafted with a sense of mastery at all. It's really cool to see how you upgrade it and how those upgrades a little bit of a graphic distortion there. That's too bad. But like even the upgrades themselves are kind of tacked on. They make the raft better and it makes it more maneuverable and has more storage area and faster, but it's all tacked on. It's this teenage scout girl trying to figure out how all the pieces are able to go together and work. And it does work, but it has this really cool jury-rigged feel to it. Also, I just want to take a second to highlight how good this music is. So I'm just going to shut up for a second so you can listen in. It's really fascinating. And I'm glad that this episode is actually going to be coming out on Women's International Day. Yay, women! Good on ya. Because it really does show how a lot of the games where you have female protagonists, yes, they're women. Oh, kind of hit the side of the thing there for a second. Yes, they're women, but one of the great things about it is that is not what makes them the character. You know, they're not characters because they're women. They're characters that just happen to be women. And that's one of the stronger aspects that I've been seeing in a lot of female protagonist-centric games. Yeah, there's a couple that are done better than others. This one is one of the most well done I've seen, at least in the last couple of years, because it's a very strong character that you don't see anything being told to you. You act it out yourself. You also have to assume a little bit about her in order to make this more plausible for you. Or you don't. You just make the character as you go along. Is it a type of character that's going to, not use any of the animals, not trap any animals, because there's an achievement for that, for not killing any of the animals? Is she someone who is very craft savvy, or is she a very explorative person who wants to find everything and do everything and see everything? You decide, and as you're going along, trying to survive, there's going to be those choices that are pointed out to you as you go along. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm going to try to make this braided cord, but I have to make sure I have enough room for it, so I have to get rid of something. And if I have to get rid of something, well, actually, I can just move it to my dog. That's another cool thing, is that you're actually able to use your dog to move things around for you in his bag, and he'll also point out things that you should probably take care of, like items on the ground that you may have missed, or deadly animals that are desperately vying for your sweet human flesh. Especially rattlesnakes. He's very good at finding rattlesnakes. He doesn't die in the game, if that's something that you're worried about. Maybe he does in later levels, I don't know. All I know is that for the amount that I've played so far, I know that it gets very difficult the longer that you go through. And the autosaves are actually very far apart as well. So you actually have to be pretty on your game before you get another checkpoint. For this campaign, I believe there's a checkpoint at like the 5-mile mark, and then there's another checkpoint at the 6-mile mark. And those miles do not go by very fast. You're going to be playing this to the 11-mile mark as it's going to take you at least an hour. And that's if you're being pretty cautious. If you're stopping at every forest or every shack, chapel that you can go to, which I do because I just like the idea of scavenging for every little bit of supplies that I possibly can. Basically, I'm playing her as a true scout, always prepared, even though I think that's the Boy Scouts. Patriarchy, not a fan of it. I think this crow just outed me for something. Go away, crow. Shoo. Yeah, that's what I thought. You can use their feathers to craft arrows, but I don't have a steel knife yet, which is kind of cool of the upgrading system itself. You actually find what you need later on down the river. It's a way to partition off early game items and later game items. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do it that way, but the areas that you eventually end up going into include kind of like a city area and then an industrial park. So it kind of makes sense that you would find more stuff in the city levels. You can find more supplies, and in the industrial park you can actually find more tools, more metal items, more lumber that you can use to upgrade the items in your inventory and on your raft. I'm going to pick up dandelions because I remembered that you can actually eat dandelions. In real life, you can eat dandelions, and they also make great tea. And there's a wolf right there, and he's super scary, so what we're going to do is we're going to run away from him. Bye, Mr. Wolf. See? As long as you make it to the dock, you're okay. You're safe, which is kind of funny, but I understand it's because they're kind of making a point where you'll be safe if you're able to get on your raft. It's kind of a nice way for the developers to be like, okay, you're safe now. Just get on your raft and go home. Or you can not. You can go to your raft, craft something, and then kill the wolf or whatever aggressive creature is coming at you with it. Which is a little... it breaks reality a little bit, but that's the thing. This game breaks reality in a lot of different ways, but I don't know why I'm able to get over it so easily. I think it's because of the style itself. The art style is that such it looks like a cartoon. It looks like it's okay with treating things maybe a little bit more silly or breaking the fourth wall or being more meta, being more self-aware. And it works. It works very well. I'm able to forgive a lot more things that I wouldn't forgive in more realistic graphics or more lifelike characters, because the art style is such that this is obviously a storied adventure. It is a character who is trying her best to get through a series of unfortunate circumstances. And actually, a series of unfortunate circumstances is a good way to describe this game if you've ever read the books. It's very fun. It's kind of like a better-looking version of Don't Starve. Not necessarily a better game, but a better-looking version of it. If I was able to describe this game in a way that makes sense to people that haven't played it before, I would say that it is a combination of Don't Starve, DayZ, and The Last of Us without zombies. Instead of zombies being the central enemy, the main enemy in this game is actually existential dread. The fear of the wilderness and the fear of how really vulnerable we are as humans against other animals in the animal kingdom. And just the will of survival itself, honestly. I'm picking up more cattails so that I can make braided cords, because braided cords are one of the things that you need the most in this game. So I always keep a really large supply of cattails on me. And you can eat them. You can eat cattails. Not cattails. I think they're a different name in other places. I mean, obviously, there are different names in other places. But I mean to say that I believe the English have a different name for it. But here they're called cattails. Other than that, really, this is the extent of the game right here. Is you get supplies, explore new areas, go to sleep every once in a while, especially if it's raining. If you get wet, you get cold, and if you get cold, there's more death that you have to worry about. You get hypothermia and die. One of the achievements, actually, is if you get dysentery. I think it's if you starve and have dysentery at the same time, you get an Oregon Trail themed achievement. So it's a very dark humor sort of game based on roguelike exploration. Yeah. And that's about it. As always, thanks for the support, guys. And if you like this, hey, take a look at the game. The Flame in the Flood, now available on Steam. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, this is the Misanthropic Lord, signing off. Apparently, I've found a way to be thirsty and drowning at the same time. Good. Good. I'm just that great at video games.